The blind millionaire's shocking groom switch at the altar stuns everyone. The grand chandelier flickered, just as Henry Ashcroft took his place at the altar of his family's sprawling estate. Soft music floated through the opulent ballroom, but Henry's heart pounded like thunder in his chest. He could feel every eye locked on him, hundreds of the highest society's elite, all watching, waiting for this to be the happiest moment of his life. Yet, beneath the polished smile, a tight knot of doubt twisted deep inside. Henry, blind since birth, had learned to read the world through sound, scent, and touch. But today, with all the expectations pressing down like heavy chains, he felt lost. He was about to marry Isabelle Sinclair, the dazzling socialite everyone envied. Tall, flawless, with a smile that lit every room. But a voice deep in his soul whispered something different, a warning he couldn't quite place. Just as the minister's voice rose to start the vows, the massive double do. "What do you mean, wrong, sister?" someone whispered from the back. But Henry's ears caught every word crystal clear. Suddenly, the entire ballroom felt like it was spinning out of control. The delicate veil of perfection was tearing apart in front of everyone's eyes. Isabelle's jaw clenched, tight and unyielding. Her mother, Madame Sinclair, glided forward with a cold smile that didn't reach her ice-blue eyes. The room stiffened. Tension snapped through the air like electricity. Henry's hands trembled slightly at his sides. He couldn't see the flashing expressions, but he could hear the taut breaths, the stifled sobs, the brittle voices shattering polite calm. The truth, hidden for years, was blooming like poison right in front of him. His mind raced. How could he trust what was real when he couldn't see beneath the surface? Clara's words promised dark secrets, betrayal tangled with heartache, and yet something in the raw honesty of her voice felt oddly sincere, like a flick. Isabelle's mother leaned in, voice slick and cold. "This family has skeletons, Henry. You don't know what you're stepping into." Her threat hung heavy in the thick air, and Henry felt the walls close in tighter. In the space between screams and whispers, Henry's soul wavered. Could he trust his instincts, or was he drowning in a dangerous game he couldn't see? As the faces blurred in his mind, he felt a strange pull toward Clara, the one who broke through the polished mask, the one who seemed real. The room held its breath. The wedding crumbled around him as Henry stood frozen, caught in a terrifying choice between duty and desire. The blind millionaire had never faced a moment like this. Would he follow the path laid out by family and fortune? Or was it time to risk everything on his own heart? On the unknown truth Clara brought crashing into his perfect world. The night was far from over, and the real story was just beginning. Hey, before you continue with this incredible, I don't want you to miss any exclusive content. And while you're there, leave that powerful like. It helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love meeting all the amazing people who are part of this community. Your participation makes a difference. Let's interact." The room held its breath. Every heartbeat echoed like a drum, a tension-filled silence that seemed to stretch forever. Henry could sense it. The weight of expectation, the sharp sting of betrayal. Clara stood inches from him, defiance radiating from her. Was this truth worth risking everything? Then, in a heartbeat, it happened. The lights flickered violently, plunging the ballroom into a momentary darkness. Squeals of surprise erupted. Panic rippled through the crowd, mingling with bewildered murmurs. But before anyone could recover, a loud crack shattered the air. The ornate chandelier above swung dangerously, a pendulum of fate. A scream pierced the chaos, a woman's voice, shrill and desperate. "Get down!" Clara threw her arm over Henry, pushing him aside, just as a heavy piece of the chandelier broke free, crashing into the floor where he had stood moments before. Glass and crystal rained down like confetti in a nightmare. Gasps turned into a cacophony of chaos as guests scrambled, some falling in their haste. The ethereal music stopped, replaced by the sound of panic, the unmistakable crackle of fear. Henry's heart raced. What was happening? He could feel the tremors of shock, the vibrations of fear in the air. And then, silence. It hung heavy, thick enough to choke. As the dust settled, a low groan issued from the direction of the altar. Henry's instincts kicked in. He moved toward the sound, with Clara close by his side. The ballroom was a mess of confusion. People checking. "Henry!" Clara called, her voice steadier than the last confession she had made. "We need to move. Someone is hurt." Henry reached out, feeling for the minister, the guests, but instead, his hand brushed against soft fabric, the texture of a gown. "Isabelle?" A muffled noise, weak and trembling, came from below. Henry's heart dropped. With urgency, he followed the sound, kneeling on the ornate floor, his fingers running over what felt like hair, long, silky, tangled. "Isabelle, what happened?" "Henry, I'm sorry," came a broken whisper. His hands shook as he found her, lying on the ground, panic replaced by pain in her voice. But then something shifted. The elegant chaos of the ballroom faded as intense scrutiny settled on Clara. She stepped back, expression morphing. Confusion turned to horror. "What are you doing?" Suddenly, Madame Sinclair emerged from the crowd, ashen-faced, but her eyes narrowed, intense. "Henry, listen. She's not who you think she is." "Aunt," Clara cried out in disbelief. "Please, this isn't the time." But it was too late. The words hung like a noose tightening. "Clara, you don't know what you've walked into. This family, it's not just secrets. It's worse than that." Henry froze, piecing together the cracks forming beneath his feet. What could be worse than betrayal? What other truths lay hidden? Then he remembered. Clara had been the wild one. Yes, but there was something deeper. twisting in the shadows of their history, something he couldn't see. As Henry's mind raced, another shout erupted from the crowd. "Someone call an ambulance!" The moment felt electric. Clara stepped forward, desperation written across her face, but it mirrored Henry's own rising fear. "Henry," she implored, voice shaking, "you have to trust me. I came here to protect you." And just like that, the reality shifted. Everything he thought he knew cracked open like an egg. Isabelle, Clara, the secrets tangled between them, like a web threatening to pull him under. The ballroom was in disarray, but the deepest unraveling simmered beneath the surface. Henry could feel it. Where did loyalty end? Where did family begin? The answers were buried under layers of deception. Henry took a shaky breath, heart pounding. "What do you mean, protect me?" Before Clara could respond, a deafening crash echoed again. Eyes turned toward the back of the ballroom. A figure loomed, the silhouette sharp against the dim light. A man, face obscured, stepping forward, cold confidence radiating in waves. "Let's talk about the real reason we're all here," he said, voice dripping with malice. And in that moment, Henry felt the world tilt. What was this new threat? What game had just begun? The wedding? A charade. The truth? A chilling revelation just out of reach. The room felt like it might collapse under the weight of secrets and pressure. Henry stood, heart racing as the looming figure moved closer, a shadow against the shimmering backdrop of shattered glass and chaos. "Let's talk about the real reason we're all here," the man said, his voice slicing through the stillness like a knife. Who was he? Henry's gut twisted. Clara's eyes darted from Henry to the newcomer, anxiety etched on her face. "You shouldn't be here," she said, voice trembling. "What are you talking about?" he demanded, trying to keep his voice steady, fighting the mix of fear and curiosity. "Your father was involved in something far beyond mere wealth. He made enemies, dangerous ones, and those enemies, they want what you have," he said, gesturing around the chaotic ballroom. "What do you mean?" Clara whispered, stepping forward, defiance mingled with fear. The man chuckled, a cold sound that echoed painfully in the now silent room. "You don't even know, do you? The Ashcroft fortune is built on blood, not money. Your father's hands were not clean." He paused, letting the words sink in. "And I'm here to ensure Henry understands what he's inherited." Henry stumbled back as if someone physically struck him. Blood, his family's legacy, was painted in darkness. It felt unreal, like a nightmare he couldn't wake from. His gut twisted tighter, pain rising at the thought of family secrets. Before he could respond, Clara's voice cut through the haze. "You're lying! My sister and I, we trusted your family." She stepped forward, face flushed with anger. "Oh, Clara," the man said, shaking his head slowly. "You've trusted him all your life, but they play you just like the rest." Henry felt a wave of nausea. Was he being played? How did Clara fit into this twisted narrative? Clara's narrow gaze shifted from Henry to the stranger, disbelief shadowing her features. Then, with a suddenness that took Henry's breath away, Clara swayed, her knees buckling, just as the chandelier's remnants continued to sparkle on the floor. "No, this isn't real." The man's expression softened just a fraction. "Everything you've known is a carefully crafted illusion, Clara. It's time to face the truth." And in that brutal second, everything shifted. Clara glanced at Henry, pain and fear mirroring in her eyes. "Henry, I..." But before she could finish, the man's voice rose again, shaking with raw power. "The truth is, Clara is not just Isabelle's sister. You were never meant to be with each other. There's a reason you can't see." He paused, watching the fire flare in Clara's eyes. With a swift motion, he pointed at Clara. "She holds the key to everything, and soon Henry will have to decide if he wants to unlock it." The words hung heavy, like lead in the air. The implications crashed over Henry like waves, each one higher, more terrifying than the last. Clara's breath quickened. What does that mean? Before the weight of the revelation could sink in further, just as the crowd began to murmur again, the lights flickered and died completely. The world erupted into darkness. Screams replaced the whispers. Henry's heart thundered as panic rippled through the crowd. "Clara!" he shouted, reaching out into the void, desperate to find her amidst the chaos. Then, just as suddenly as the lights went out, a blinding flash lit up the room. A flash from the side entrance, bathing everything in an eerie glow and illuminating more faces in the crowd. Seconds later, there was a loud crash, and the unmistakable sound of a gunshot echoed through the ballroom. Fear squeezed Henry's chest. What was happening? Where was Clara? The stunning reality twisted again. Questions spiraled in his mind. Was Clara a pawn in a more sinister game? Or could she be the key to breaking a cycle of darkness? As the echoes of chaos filled the air, he knew one thing for certain. The night had only just begun, and he was standing at the edge of a perilous truth. The world fell into chaos. Henry's heart raced, pounding in rhythm with the shattering revelations surrounding him. The gunshot echoed in the hollow silence, a stark reminder of danger lurking in the shadows. He stumbled, eyes straining against the darkness, desperation clawing at his chest. "Clara!" he shouted, panic threading through his voice. Where was she? All around, people were scrambling, fear etched on their faces. The harsh whispers and cries filled the air like a heavy fog, swirling with confusion. Suddenly, another flash of light exploded, illuminating the chaos for just a heartbeat. Henry caught a glimpse of Clara, darting through the crowd, her eyes wide with terror. "Over here," she called, moving toward him. But then everything spiraled out of control. There was another loud crash, and the shadowy figure who had emerged before stepped forward, raising a gleaming object in his hand. "Enough," he barked, voice booming like thunder. "You think it's over? This is just the beginning." The crowd fell into horrified silence as they processed his menacing glare. "What do you want?" Clara shouted, standing her ground, even as fear trembled in her voice. The man smirked, his lips curling with a sinister satisfaction. "What I want, dear Clara, is revenge. You have no idea how deep the roots of your family's lies extend." Henry felt ice coursing through his veins. Revenge? What had been hidden from him? He stood, heart racing as he fought to make sense of the unfolding nightmare. But just then, the man turned his gaze to Henry, and in that moment, recognition flickered in his eyes. You're just like him." "What do you mean?" Henry asked, confusion mingling with fear. The stranger took a step closer, voice low but piercing. "You're your father's son, and his sins, they're yours to bear." Henry's heart dropped. The secrets, the blood, it wasn't just about inheritance. It was about a dark legacy he never asked for. "What does that mean?" he whispered, throat dry, despair swelling in his chest. With a swift motion, the figure hurled something toward Henry, a silvery object glinting ominously in the flickering light. It landed at his feet, his father's locket. He recognized it instantly. His mother had worn it, a cherished memory from long ago. "This was your mother's, wasn't it?" The man sneered. Sudden clarity struck Henry like a bolt of lightning. It was all connected. The whispers, the silences, the hidden truths of their families. "What have you done?" he gasped, a lump forming in his throat. The man leaned in closer, eyes sharp in the dim light. "What hasn't been done?" He paused, reveling in the moment. "Your father and I had a deal, breakable only by blood. You know this now. You are the last pawn in a game bigger than you could ever imagine." The air shifted. Henry's mind raced, grappling with the unfolding reality. Clara's face paled. "No, you can't!" But the man laughed, a chilling sound that echoed in the now silent ballroom. "The game is afoot, Clara. Your family's secrets will destroy everything and everyone." Henry swallowed hard, dread pooling in his gut. Everything was unraveling. There was more to it than betrayal, more than revenge. His heart told him to trust Clara, yet doubt lingered in the air like a shadow. Before he could piece together his thoughts, Clara stepped forward, her voice trembling with a fierceness that surprised Henry. "You think you can control us? We won't be pawns any longer." As if orchestrating chaos, the lights flickered again. Then, just as he felt the world tilting beneath him, the man pulled the trigger. A shot rang out, a bright flash erupting in the darkened room. And in that heartbeat, everything changed. Who had been hit? Henry's mind reeled, heart racing with panic. Screams erupted again, the sound sharp and piercing, cutting through the haze. Then came a twist that rooted him to the spot. In the aftermath, Henry scrambled to find Clara, breathless and terrified. The chaos swirled all around, but then, "Clara!" he called, desperation clawing at his throat. From the shadows, a figure emerged, wounded but standing. Suddenly illuminated by the blur of frantic bodies, the truth hit him with the force of a freight train. Clara! She was grinning, blood dripping from her arm, yet her eyes shimmered with a fierce light. "Surprise!" she exclaimed, laughter tinged with madness. "You didn't think it was all for nothing, did you?" Henry stood frozen, bewilderment washing over him. "What are you saying? What's happening?" And in that moment, with truths shattering and loyalties crumbling, everything Henry believed about Clara, about love, about family, all faded into the dawning realization that the greatest betrayal had just begun. What had she done? What was this game they were a part of? The night had only begun, but the questions surged like a tidal wave. He was caught in a storm, and the answer lay just beyond reach, hidden in the shadows. Henry stood frozen, disbelief coursing through him like ice. Clara's laughter echoed eerily, twisting the moment into something dark and unsettling. "You didn't think it was all for nothing, did you?" she said, her voice brittle like glass ready to shatter. He couldn't process this new reality. Blood trickled from her arm, glistening against the chaos of fallen crystals around them. "What are you saying?" Panic bubbled in his throat. "Why are you smiling? You're hurt!" Her smirk faded, replaced by something raw and desperate. "Henry, I've been playing my role beautifully. But this isn't just about us anymore." Confusion churned in his gut. Suddenly, he felt a rush of wind, then another crash echoed through the ballroom. The power flickered again. Whispers morphed into terrified gasps. Time slowed as Henry strained to grasp what was happening. The stranger took a step closer, eyes gleaming with satisfaction. He leaned against the wall, arms crossed, enjoying the spectacle. "You see, Henry, the game has merely begun." Then, in a shocking turn, the man hurled a small device toward Clara. It skittered across the ground, crackling ominously before exploding in a cloud of smoke. Screams erupted, swallowed by chaos as people rushed to escape. A heavy fog enveloped the crowd, pushing them toward the exits. "Clara!" Henry yelled, but the smoke swallowed her figure from view. His heart raced as shadows danced around him, but he felt a strong urge to move. He had to find her. He stumbled forward, navigating through screaming guests, his senses heightened. Then, a piercing scream cut through the smoke, the voice unmistakable. "Henry!" Clara shouted, sounding terrified, desperate. Panic surged through his veins. "Clara!" He strained against the fog, trying to find her. Where could she be? Suddenly, a familiar scent cut through the chaos. Her perfume. He turned, lunging toward the source, but colliding hard with something solid. It was the man blocking his path. "You can't save her," he laughed, a cruel twist fading into his voice. "This ends tonight." Henry felt a fire ignite inside him, a mix of anger and fear. "What have you done to her?" But the man just shook his head, enjoying the show too much. "Oh, she's fine. For now. Let's just say Clara is worth more than you realize." "What is that supposed to mean?" Henry demanded, determination sharpening his voice. Before he could digest more, another figure stepped through the haze. It was Isabelle, her expression frantic, eyes locking onto Henry with desperate clarity. "Henry, you have to listen! What's going on?" He felt his world tilt again. Is this part of the act? No, Clara was never who you thought she was. Isabelle's voice cut through the noise, raw and urgent. She's been playing you for years. What do you mean? Henry's mind raced, confusion mingling with fear. Isabelle took a shaky breath, desperation brewing. She's not your destiny. She's after something else, something that could destroy us all. Every word shattered Henry's resolve, a tsunami of doubt crashing down on him. You're lying! She saved me! Before Isabelle could answer, the smoke thickened again, closing in with a chilling grip. In a flash, everything changed once more. Gunfire erupted. A series of shots rang out, echoing like thunder. Henry's heart dropped as screams interwove with the chaos. He ducked, dragging Isabelle with him. We have to get out of here. As he yanked her to safety, a sharp pain pierced his side. He gasped, clutching at the wound, feeling warmth seeping through his fingers. Adrenaline surged and mixed with confusion. The ballroom spun, frantic screams melting into a dissonant symphony. But as Henry staggered, everything unlocked in a brutal twist. Clara emerged from the smoke, eyes wide, hands shaking with a gun held tightly. "You shouldn't have tried to save her," she screamed. Henry's breath caught in his throat, and he stumbled back in shock. This had all been a game, a twisted dance of secrets, manipulation, and betrayal. What did she mean? And just like that, Clara's identity flipped. She was not just the tempting illusion of love. She was the storm, the eye of chaos enveloping them all. The ground beneath Henry's feet shifted once more, dark clouds swirling as new truths threatened to unravel everything. What was real? What was illusion? Clara laughed, a haunting sound in the pandemonium. Would he lose everything he had believed for her? Or was she truly the key to breaking the cycle of darkness? The night had turned into a nightmare, and he could see only shadows ahead. Henry stood frozen, disbelief coursing through him like ice. Clara's laughter echoed eerily, twisting the moment into something dark and unsettling. "You didn't think it was all for nothing, did you?" she said, her voice brittle like glass ready to shatter. He couldn't process this new reality. Blood trickled from her arm, glistening against the chaos of fallen crystals around them. "What are you saying?" Panic bubbled in his throat. "Why are you smiling? You're hurt." Her smirk faded, replaced by something raw and desperate. "Henry, I've been playing my role beautifully, but this isn't just about us anymore." Confusion churned in his gut. Suddenly, he felt a rush of wind. Then another crash echoed through the ballroom. The power flickered again. Whispers morphed into terrified gasps. Time slowed as Henry strained to grasp what was happening. The stranger took a step closer, eyes gleaming with satisfaction. He leaned against the wall, arms crossed, enjoying the spectacle. "You see, Henry, the game has merely begun." Then, in a shocking turn, the man hurled a small device toward Clara. It skittered across the ground, crackling ominously before exploding in a cloud of smoke. Screams erupted, swallowed by chaos as people rushed to escape. A heavy fog enveloped the crowd, pushing them toward the exits. "Clara!" Henry yelled, but the smoke swallowed her figure from view. His heart raced as shadows danced around him, but he felt a strong urge to move. He had to find her. He stumbled forward, navigating through screaming guests, his senses heightened. Then a piercing scream cut through the smoke, the voice unmistakable. "Henry!" Clara shouted, sounding terrified, desperate. Panic surged through his veins. "Clara!" He strained against the fog, trying to find her. Where could she be? Suddenly, a familiar scent cut through the chaos. Her perfume. He turned, lunging toward the source, but colliding hard with something solid. It was the man, blocking his path. "You can't save her," he laughed, a cruel twist fading into his voice. "This ends tonight." Henry felt a fire ignite inside him, a mix of anger and fear. "What have you done to her?" But the man just shook his head, enjoying the show too much. "Oh, she's fine. For now. Let's just say Clara is worth more than you realize." "What is that supposed to mean?" Henry demanded, determination sharpening his voice. Before he could digest more, another figure stepped through the haze. It was Isabelle, her expression frantic, eyes locking onto Henry with desperate clarity. "Henry, you have to listen." "What's going on?" He felt his world tilt again. "Is this part of the act?" "No, Clara was never who you thought she was." Isabelle's voice cut through the noise, raw and urgent. "She's been playing you for years." "What do you mean?" Henry's mind raced, confusion mingling with fear. Isabelle took a shaky breath, desperation brewing. "She's not your destiny. She's after something else. Something that could destroy us all." Every word shattered Henry's resolve, a tsunami of doubt crashing down on him. "You're lying. She saved me." Before Isabelle could answer, the smoke thickened again, closing in with a chilling grip. In a flash, everything changed once more. Gunfire erupted. A series of shots rang out, echoing like thunder. Henry's heart dropped as screams interwove with the chaos. He ducked, dragging Isabelle with him. "We have to get out of here." As he yanked her to safety, a sharp pain pierced his side. He gasped, clutching at the wound, feeling warmth seeping through his fingers. Adrenaline surged and mixed with confusion. The ballroom spun, frantic screams melting into a dissonant symphony. But as Henry staggered, everything unlocked in a brutal twist. Clara emerged from the smoke, eyes wide, hands shaking with a gun held tightly. "You shouldn't have tried to save her!" she screamed. Henry's breath caught in his throat, and he stumbled back in shock. This had all been a game, a twisted dance of secrets, manipulation, and betrayal. What did she mean? And just like that, Clara's identity flipped. She was not just the tempting illusion of love. She was the storm, the eye of chaos enveloping them all. The ground beneath Henry's feet shifted once more, dark clouds swirling as new truths threatened to unravel everything. What was real? What was illusion? Clara laughed, a haunting sound in the pandemonium. But then, as if the world itself was responding to the chaos, there was an unexpected loud crack overhead. Henry's eyes darted up, just in time to see the chandelier above them tipping dangerously. Time slowed, each moment stretching painfully. "Look out!" Isabelle screamed, shoving Henry out of the way, just as the chandelier plummeted, crashing down into the crowd. Glass shattered. Flesh cried out. Chaos ignited anew. The weight of the moment pressed down, a thick silence enveloping the room before screams erupted again. But amidst the confusion, Clara vanished into the shadows, slipping away like mist in a storm. "Clara!" Henry shouted, desperation clawing at him. But there was no answer, just the aftermath of shattered glass, wounded guests, and the horrifying revelation that everything he thought he knew had overturned. In the wreckage of the ballroom, as sirens wailed in the distance and panic reigned, Henry stood paralyzed. Was Clara still a danger? What had she truly set into motion? And as the reality sank in, an icy hand of realization gripped him. Clara hadn't just been playing with him. She was the puppet master, orchestrating a game far beyond simple betrayal. What role did she want him to play now? The night spiraled into madness, and Henry was left searching for answers in the wreckage, wondering if he could untangle himself from the threads of deception, binding him to Clara's dark designs. The chaos enveloped Henry like a smothering blanket. He stumbled through the wreckage of fallen glass, his heart racing, searching for Clara in the cloud of panic. Sirens wailed in the distance, drawing nearer, the heavy scent of smoke and fear thick in the air. Then, just as the weight of uncertainty gripped him, he felt a sudden, intense pull at his side. His hand flew to where it throbbed, realizing the sharp pain had intensified. Blood soaked through his shirt. "What the hell?" he gasped, looking down in horror. "Henry!" Isabelle's voice broke through his panic. She rushed to his side, eyes wide. "You're hurt. We need to get you out of here." "Clara!" he shouted, desperation clawing at his throat. But all that echoed back was chaos. Shadows darted, panicked bodies rushing toward the exits, oblivious to his turmoil. Isabelle grasped his arm tightly, urging him away from the chaos. "We have to go. She's gone." But his mind was fixated. Something in the air felt off. It was like a storm brewing just behind the scenes. As he nursed the wound, his instincts screamed that they were not finished. Then, from the corner of his eye, he caught movement. A figure emerged from the smoke, a woman, gliding toward the exit with an unsettling grace. It wasn't Clara. It was Madame Sinclair. "We need to talk, Henry," she said, her voice smooth and chilling. His pulse quickened. What could she possibly want now? "Why are you here?" he managed to croak. "We're all tangled in something bigger than you realize," she replied, glancing around her like a hawk searching for prey. "This isn't just a family affair. It's much darker." Before he could respond, the hallway quaked as a loud explosion rumbled outside, sending tremors through the building. The windows rattled violently, and a blinding light flooded the room. A distant cry erupted amidst the chaos, an urgent, terrified scream that sent shivers down Henry's spine. Suddenly, the electricity flickered again, and shadows danced wildly across the walls. A collective gasp flooded the ballroom, everyone freezing in trepidation. Then, out of nowhere, Clara burst back into view, her expression frantic. "You have to run!" she shouted, pointing toward the back entrance. "They're coming!" "What do you mean?" Henry shouted back, confusion raining terror in his heart. But instead of answering, Clara turned, her expression shifting from panic to something dark. "You were too naive to understand." Clara raised her gun, aimed directly at Henry. His breath hitched as reality shattered. "No! Clara, please!" The world around him slowed, her words slicing through the panic like glass. "You're not worth the trouble." But before anyone could react, Madame Sinclair stepped forward, laughter bubbling up like boiling water. "You see, the truth is, you've been deceived. Clara isn't just playing a game. She is part of something so much larger." Everyone stood paralyzed. The air turned electric with realization. "What?" Henry whispered, disbelief wrapping around him like a vice. In an explosion of chaos, Clara dropped the gun, stepping back, even as doubt wavered in her eyes. "I was meant to protect you, but I failed," she murmured. Just then, the unseen force unleashed itself. The ground shook. Cracks formed in the ceiling, dust and debris falling like rain. And as the room began to collapse, Madame Sinclair revealed the shocking, twisted truth. "Henry, your father wasn't just a wealthy man. He was part of a cartel, a network of corruption and power. You're the heir, and they'll stop at nothing to get what is theirs." Henry felt every shred of hope shred inside him. Tears sprang to his eyes. "No, that can't be." But just then, the lights went out completely. The last thing he heard was a voice, echoing in the dark, filled with cold conviction. "Welcome to the family business, Henry." And with that, there was nothing but silence, a chilling promise, lingering in the air as the foundations of his reality crumbled beneath him. Would he find a way out of this twisted web of deception? Or was he destined to become a player in a dark game he never wanted to join? The chandelier crashed, and darkness swallowed the ballroom whole. Panic set. Where was Clara? Where was anyone? A voice broke through the confusion, harsh and demanding. "Get down!" It was Isabelle. He heard the urgency in her tone and instinctively ducked, the falling debris whistling past him. But he couldn't shake off the overwhelming dread that clung to his senses. Clara's laughter echoed in his mind, a chilling reminder of the last moments before everything unfolded. Heart racing, he strained to hear her voice, scanning the chaotic darkness. "Clara!" he cried out, desperation fueling him. But there was only silence, heavy, suffocating silence. And then, amid the thrumming chaos, he heard something. A soft, eerie hum. It was almost melodic, threading through the horror. A musical note broke through, rising softly like a ghost. And suddenly, the lights flickered back on. But the scene had changed. The ballroom was filled not just with frightened guests, but with a heavy sense of something ominous looming. No one was screaming now. They were staring right at him. Henry felt his stomach drop. Clara stood at the far end, silhouetted against a wall of shattered glass. She looked different, darker, more intense, as if the chaos had transformed her into something unrecognizable. In her grip, a gun. Panic surged through every vein in his body. Clara. Her eyes narrowed, a gleam of madness sparking within. "You don't understand, Henry," she rasped, voice sharp and filled with an energy that sent shivers down his spine. "This was never about you. You're just a pawn in this game." "That's not true. I thought—" Before he could finish, Clara conspired with a flick of her wrist. "You thought I was your savior?" she scoffed, voice echoing with a disturbing blend of amusement and defiance. "No, Henry, you're far more valuable, dead." The air chilled. Henry's heart raced. A tiger trapped in a cage. "What are you talking about?" He could barely breathe. "Your father's legacy goes beyond what you think. I didn't come to protect you. I came to end this." "End what?" he asked, eyes darting to the gripped gun in her hand. Time stopped as her voice flickered like the lights had, cold and biting. "The Ashcroft family tree is rotten. It was only a matter of time before the foundation crumbled." Then, realization washed over him, hard and raw. "You're in this with Madame Sinclair? With the cartel?" Before she could answer, the stranger, the man who had tortured Henry with revelations earlier, stepped to the side, smirk plastered on his face. "She had to keep you close, Henry. Why do you think it's all unraveling now?" A knot formed in his stomach. "Clara, you?" The lights flickered again, and darkness returned. But this time, when the lights came back, the atmosphere shifted. There was more than just the crowd. A woman, someone Henry recognized instantly, an image from years past, his heart sinking. "Mom?" His mother appeared, radiant and alive, but shrouded in mystery. "Henry!" she called out, reaching for him. "You must listen." Clara's expression twisted, a dark cloud passing over her features. "No, this could ruin everything. I'm the key to stopping this," Henry's mother insisted, urgency laced in her voice. "You have to believe me." The room teetered on the brink of madness. Clara's grip tightened around her gun, a decision spiraling in her eyes. "Mom, what do you mean?" Henry shouted, caught in a whirlwind of emotion. But before she could answer, Clara pulled the trigger. His breath caught. The sound was deafening, cutting through the room's chaos. Henry staggered back, disbelief shattering his reality, eyes wide with horror, and the truth hit him like a freight train. Clara smiled, a sickening twist of satisfaction on her lips. Goodbye, Henry. Welcome to the truth. As the room exploded into confusion once more, Henry's mind spiraled with revelations. The gunshot rang, but the real damage was done long before it echoed. He could feel the world ablaze in uncertainty. Clara was a player, yes, but what if his mother held secrets so deep that everything he thought he knew was a carefully crafted lie? Everything was changing before his eyes. Trust shattered like glass underfoot. Darkness loomed as reality slipped away. Would he ever find the truth? The gunshot rang out, shattering the tense atmosphere like glass. Henry staggered back, his heart racing. Clara stood frozen, her expression twisted in a mix of horror and resolve. "What have you done?" Henry shouted, panic flooding his veins. But the room had erupted into chaos. Guests screamed, running for the exits, colliding into one another, a sea of bodies in frantic flight. Isabelle, eyes wide, grabbed Henry's arm. "We need to get out, now!" Then, a piercing scream sliced through the din. It was his mother's voice. "Henry!" It echoed, pouring through the frantic crowd, drowning out the chaos. Fear twisted in his gut as he turned, searching frantically through the haze. He caught a glimpse of her face through the swirling panic. She seemed more vibrant than before, yet there was an urgency in her eyes that sent chills through him. "You have to understand, Henry. They won't stop until it's too late." "Mom, what do you mean?" he yelled, pushing through the crowd to reach her, the pain in his side stabbing with every movement. And then, out of nowhere, Clara lunged at him, grabbing his shirt. "Don't listen to her!" The desperation in her voice sent a rush of confusion coursing through him. "She's not who you think. None of this is real." Suddenly the floor beneath them trembled. A deep rumble echoed. Was that an explosion? The lights flickered and then went out again, plunging them into darkness. Henry gasped, feeling the world spin. In the confusion, he felt his mother's presence close, a steadying force gripping his arm. "I'm here, Henry. Stay with me." But the weight of Clara's gaze burned into him, a mix of pain and anger. "You don't have to do this." Before he could respond, there was a deafening crash, a sound that felt like the end of everything. A segment of the ceiling collapsed, sending dust swirling in the air. In that instant, everything changed. Henry didn't know what to believe anymore. His mother pulling him to safety, Clara ready to fight, the chaos around him. Just as his mind began to piece together the chaos, Clara's expression shifted. Fear transformed into something darker. "Henry, I'm sorry," she whispered. The walls trembled. The ceiling groaned ominously. And then it happened. A blinding light filled the ballroom, illuminating the whole space in a shocking flash. Through the light, Henry saw a figure stepping forward. It was a man, well-dressed, familiar, and impossibly confident. Henry felt a jolt of recognition. "Dad?" he whispered, barely able to grasp the idea. His father stepped into the light like a ghost reborn. Everything you think you know, it's all a lie. Stunned silence enveloped the crowd. Henry felt as if the air had been sucked out of the room. "Dad, you've been alive?" The questions tumbled out, confusion spiraling. His father's eyes locked onto Clara. "You were never supposed to find out, Clara. This was never meant for you." Clara's face shifted from anger to shock, and in that moment, the pieces began to fall into place. You lied to me," she gasped, eyes wide with betrayal. Everything swirled in Henry's mind as he pieced together this new reality. Clara wasn't just a victim of the game. She was connected to something far more sinister. "Henry, listen," his mother cried, grabbing his arm again. "Your father is dangerous. You have to trust me." But Clara's scream cut through the chaos. "No, don't trust him. He's the monster." Then came the twist that shattered everything. "You're my son, Henry," his father declared, voice booming with authority. "And that makes you a part of this legacy, whether you like it or not." Henry's world began to spiral into darkness as realization settled in like poison. "What are you saying?" he shouted, panic rising. But his father smiled, satisfaction bleeding through his facade. "I've kept you safe, but that safety is over. You belong to us now, and there's no escaping what you truly are." Just as dread enveloped him, a low rumble sounded again, this time stronger, shaking the very foundations beneath their feet. With that, the stage was set for a confrontation like no other. The game had reframed, the pieces were in place, but whose side was Henry truly on? As the darkness advanced, he felt the weight of his choices pressing in. Would he embrace the legacy or tear it all down? The night held secrets waiting to unravel, and a clock ticking down to an uncertain fate. As the chaos unfolded around him, Henry felt a storm brewing within. He turned to Clara, gun raised, confusion swirling in her dark eyes. "Just put it down," Henry pleaded, his voice shaking. He could hardly breathe as fear gripped him tight. "We need to talk about this." Madame Sinclair stood tall, a twisted smile painting her lips. "You still don't get it, do you, Henry? Your father's legacy isn't just wealth. It's power. You're not free. You never have been." "No!" Clara's voice broke through the tension, desperation rising like a tide. "Henry, don't listen to them. They're the real monsters here." The lights flickered overhead, shadows dancing through the room like angry spirits. Henry caught his mother's gaze, urgency radiating from her expression. "Henry, trust me. You can choose to break free." "By choosing you?" Clara shot back, bitterness seeping through her words. "How can he trust you when you hid the truth?" Henry felt torn. His heart pounded in his chest, caught between familial loyalty and a love that now twisted into something dangerous. The pieces began to fit, but he still felt lost in the fog. "Enough!" his father roared, stepping further into the light. "You're mine, Henry. Accept it!" No, it boiled inside him, a fierce wave of rebellion. Amid the storm, a glimmer of hope flickered in his chest. "I'm done being a pawn." The room erupted. He rushed forward, heart pounding, and grabbed Clara's wrist. "We can end this together, but we need each other." Clara blinked, hesitation clouding her gaze for a fleeting moment. "You don't know what you're asking for." Before her words sunk in, a deafening crash echoed as debris rained down. Henry pulled Clara close, shielding her. "We can't let them win." "When did you become this brave?" Clara whispered, a hint of warmth breaking through her fear. "Right now," he replied, determination surging together. In that instant, as the disaster loomed around them, they faced down the oncoming darkness. "I'm not going back!" he shouted, rallying strength from deep within. Madame Sinclair's expression twisted into a snarl. "You can't escape who you are." But Henry felt a force rise up, bolstered by the crowd's hip-hop of realization. "Then I'll carve a new path." Gritting his teeth, Henry turned to face his father, his own blood pulsing with resolve. "I reject your legacy. I choose my own fate." Clara's eyes sparkled with understanding. "We're done letting others dictate our destiny," she vowed, her gun lowering, the threat morphing into something else entirely. The ballroom felt alive, each breath charged with electric anticipation. With a sudden rush, guests began shifting toward the exit. A tide of bodies moved by a shared decision to fight. For freedom, for truth. "Let chaos reign!" his father shouted furiously, but was swallowed by the rise of rising energy clashing with his demands. "Enough!" Henry shouted, and with one swift move, he joined Clara in their stance against his father's force. "We will define who we are." And as the dust settled, a strange clarity enveloped the room. The power-hungry circle of manipulation distilled into a moment of undeniable possibility. Only Henry and Clara remained, standing amidst the wreckage, shaking yet resolute. As they grasped hands, the weight of the world lifted just a bit. "This isn't over," Clara breathed, uncertainty shadowing her fierce spirit. "No, but we'll face it together." They turned to the crowd, many holding their breath. The connection forged between them burst forth, hope woven from pain. And as they embraced the unknown, Henry realized change was not just a choice. It was a fire ignited through their unyielding bond. The sudden quiet that followed left Henry yearning for more. Could they truly break the chains of legacy? Or was this just the beginning of something larger than all of them? And there was that question that lingered, heavy on his heart, as the first rays of dawn streaked through the remnants of the night. What shape would their future take? As the scene unfolded into uncertainty, one thing felt clear. They would rise again. Now's the time to take action. You must subscribe to the channel immediately so you don't miss the next explosive stories. Click that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep content flowing. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this jaw-dropping ending. Did you see this twist coming? Share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to know how it ends. Don't wait another second.